Hey now, ModzvilleUSA here. Welcome back to the channel. And we got something different today. We're going to be taking a look at two portable emulation devices. The RG350M and the RG351. And wouldn't you know it, your boy wrote a script for this one. So let's grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and let's do a proper video here. So recently, I was contacted by a representative of Banggood to check out some handheld emulation devices. I said sure, send them over. I like free stuff. Figured that this video would be just a quick unboxing video. I check them out until you just go grab a PS Vita or a PSP and throw custom firmware on it. Call it a day, but to my surprise, I've been tinkering with these guys for about a week now. I'm actually really digging these things. So let's jump in, dudes. We're going to compare the pros and cons of the RG350M versus the RG351R. I want to be keeping one of these devices for myself and giving the device that I deem crappier to my buddy for his birthday. So let's start with the RG350M. The RG350M runs on an OS called Open Dingus. That's been around since 2014, and at first glance, it looks like a real crappy UI for a mid-2000s cell phone. It sports an aluminum alloy shell, dual-core CPU at 1 GHz, and 512 megs of DDR2 RAM. The display is a 3.5 IPS running at 640 by 480. The console feels amazing and retro games look beautiful on the display. Many cores keep the original aspect ratio as well. I'm not a fan of Open Dingus UI, but luckily the community for this device is very active. There have been ports of Emulation Station and a minimal variation called Simple Menu. Now, at first, I tried downloading and flashing a pre-built image for both, but ran into black screen issues each time. I ended up having to set up Simple Menu from scratch. I must say, this was an absolute pain in the ass. The emulators come in OPK files, which are designed specifically for Open Dingus. Each emulator needs to be sourced, added to the console, and configured within the INI to point to the right emulator, ROM path, file extension, all of that. I had all kinds of dumb issues setting it up. Certain themes will completely break an emulator and cause a major headache. Now that I've almost completely dialed it in, the console is pretty damn rad though. Getting to this point was a hell of a tedious journey, filled with troubleshooting. I'd try grabbing a pre-built image first before dialing it in yourself. Hopefully you have better luck with those than I did. The console can play everything up to and including PS1 games, but you may run into issues with some of the more demanding titles. If you're interested in a portable handheld to play PS1 and below, this will definitely get the job done. You're in for a doozy when it comes to setting it up. Okay, now let's talk about the RG351R. Now, the RG351R is beefier on paper in every way in specs than the RG350M. The only exception is that the screen is lower res at 320 by 480. Out of the box, it comes with a much nicer looking UI and runs on a custom build of Emulation Station. After a bit of tinkering, I opted to install ArcOS, which is a very nice UI for this little device. My favorite perk of this OS is the ability to update over Wi-Fi with an OTG cable plus Wi-Fi dongle. You can also download artwork directly from the console itself, which is a super nice touch. Tweaking and configuring this device was significantly easier than the RG350M. I upgraded the SD card to 128 gigabytes and loaded it with my ROM collection. Now, if you'd like me to share my completed build, let me know in the comment section below. I have a few more tweaks to do, but it's almost there. Now, this bad boy can handle everything that the RG350M can, in addition to Sega Dreamcast, PSP, Naomi, and N64. With these consoles, you can't expect anywhere near perfection, and your mileage will vary. For me, though, as long as I can play the Dreamcast version of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, then I'm a happy camper. While not perfect in menus, THPS2 for Dreamcast is perfectly playable in-game. All the cores in the console are running off of RetroArch, and an in-game overlay can be accessed using L1, R1, Start, and Select, which makes tweaking your settings super easy on the fly. So the pros and cons of each. Let's start with the RG350M. Pros: better build quality, nicer screen, proper aspect ratios. Cons: hard to configure, it's less powerful. Let's talk about the RG351R. Pros: easy to configure, more powerful, cheaper, better UI. Cons: stretched aspect ratios, subjective, worse screen resolutions, cheaper build quality. In conclusion, so at the end of the day, I've weighed those things out, and I'm going to be keeping the RG351R and giving the RG350M to my buddy. Stretched aspect ratios don't bother me personally. Being able to play select Dreamcast, PSP, and N64 games seals the deal for me. Both of these consoles have a surprisingly active community, and you can't really go wrong with either of these little portables. If I had to recommend one, though, I'd stand by the RG351 series. It's just more powerful, user-friendly, and ArcOS is a seriously awesome front end that is being actively developed. Well, anyways, dudes, thanks for hanging out. If one of these consoles sounds good to you, I've got affiliate links down below. If you get one from one of those links, help out the channel. It's greatly appreciated. If not, don't worry about it. I know this is a little different from my usual videos, so if you dig it, if you dig the scripted style, the a bit more in-depth, a bit more, put together kinds of videos, let me know in the comments or leave a like if this is something you want to see more of, and we'll make it happen, all right? Anyway, my planet needs me. I've got to go now. Modzville, signing out.